Close the computer. And good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever you may be. This is Declan Cavanagh from the Coming Home to You network, and I am here with the lovely Macha Shewolf, who's also, in my opinion, a Celtic princess. So we're going to have a little discourse on everything spiritual and everything magical and everything in between. So, Macha, tell us a little about yourself.
Thanks, Declan. So yeah, nice for the invite. It's funny when you were like, Matcha the priestess was like, oh, that's such a loaded thing. So I actually have on my social media high priestess and medicine woman, Tantrica. I do many things. I do a lot of things. It's not as normal as a lot of other spiritual guides or healers. And I love a lot of things. And a huge piece of my work would be to bring people to the land. It's very earth-based. I love nature work. And then all the way from a real like holistic practice of all the way from your food to, foraging into nature connection, then all the way into deep embodiment work through voice and movement. And then the Celtic part is just so weaved in there because I am Irish. I live in Ireland. I've
Yeah.
always been here. I'm also a mother of a 20-year-old, and horses are a big part of my life, like not just horses, but all animals. And it's actually one of the main reasons I do this work. And I'm also an artist, a professional artist, visual artist, performance artist, music creator. So yeah, a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great too because I find that some people try to define us by putting us in a box and putting us a label and say, oh, they're this, they're that, or the other. Where
Mm,
really in reality we're a mix of a lot of different things. And
mm,
like everything you've just mentioned is we could talk about each of them for a day and a half. And each of them really define who we are really as how we're showing up in the world. So you've mentioned the arts, the artist and the singing, or I won't say the singing, but more probably vocal.
mm.
Uh, I'm kind of picking up more like tonality, like a hum, that kind of resonance. And of
Mm.
course, sound is very powerful and how we can heal ourselves with sound or help us to transform.
Yeah. So like my thing, it's everyone's thing, the first sound was an and that's why, it resonates with people. So it's like for me, my medicine is very much, I call it now vibrational medicine. My alignment is orientated about vibration. As a sound healer, as a musician, but not even just that. It's like where we're called to and where we're drawn to, and like to weave it into the land speak. So everything has vibration. Like,
Yeah,
that's science proof. Like, that's just there. So if we, and then everything, even the things that are of low vibration, right? So like everything has a vibe. So it sounds all a bit woo, but in the reality, if we kind of follow that in our true self and in our physical embodiment. This is where the embodiment part is really important because it's
yeah,
all great understanding vibration and liking sound. But if you're not listening to your inner physical sound or your inner physical being, then it's very hard to find. So this is where the disconnect comes, where the nature, I suppose, for me is the most like natural, like, big natural wilderness in the country. It doesn't matter what country you
yeah,
are versus a city. They have pros and cons, but like the wildness, like the reason why there's something called, nature healing is because nature heals us. It's
yeah,
just you just have to be in it, right? Like you don't need anything else. It's free. It's free medicine.
yeah,
So this is a big piece for me is just bringing people back to their own sounding board, I suppose. And with sound, as you said, like, so I have a band, it's called Tribal Roots Music Medicine. My partner is Polish, so, that's where we're at with our name. And it's like the music is a resonance or a channel of what we work with, what's present, and with the
mm,
land and how it speaks. and it's not to give it a certain language or a, and it is a language, but it's again it's a resonance and a prayer. So yeah, I have a big range of like weird sounds. So when you're like, I'm like, yeah, I love those. I love those ones. They're perfect. They're like, that's like my best part of my day is just making weird sounds. Yeah.
And of course, a lot of things that people have forgotten or don't realize that we are nature and nature is us. The two of us are the same. We're not part of nature. We're not separate. Nature's not out there. It's inside of us. And this is the kind of thing we need to listen. We need to be aware of and
Mm.
follow where we're guided to, whether it be in the world or our living space. And like that too, if you walk into a room, you feel bad. It's like, yeah, this place is not for me. I need to move. A lot of people seem to have forgotten about that, or maybe it's something that people have been so busy in this day and age that our natural intuition has been lost. But you mentioned food as well, and of course, food is very much part of us, and what
Mm.
we eat is what's walking around tomorrow.
Mm.
So the importance of good quality food doesn't have to be expensive, but it's got to be good quality and got life affirming and life sustaining.
Mm.
I I I don't want to be presupposed that you're a vegetarian or that you're a vegan. You're well.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Um, oh, I don't really have a favorite food. Um, because like we would make very different dishes all the time, and then maybe there's some like this is a dish, but like as a vegetarian vegans, we've moved more a bit more vegetarian, but we'd only eat like goat's cheese, like more quality or more resonant with us.
Mm,
And so we I'm saying we because Lucas is actually the cook in this house. But so um there's a reason for that. But anyway, it's come back to the new patriarchy, matriarchy. It's like allowing I had a thing years ago. I was like, I want a partner that wants to cook for me. Like, because I just saw my mom tied to the kitchen
yeah,
table, and it was just like and also getting a bit of rap, like, oh, I don't like this dinner, like, and just like, fucking, like, she's constantly there, like,
yeah,
doing the work. And I was like, I kind of just, like, we had quite an open family, but I kind of definitely looked at all that and was like, I just want someone to make my meals and great
mm,
food. And like, I always kind of attracted that then. And so the food is always just very varied, very, could be from all over the world. We just mix a lot of things and it's just a lot of vegetables, vegetable heavy. We're just veggie heavy people. That's
yeah.
the best way to sum it up.
But it's amazing. I suppose my father, he wouldn't be a good big one for vegetables. He likes peas and carrots. That's it. And it's like there's so many vegetables out there. But typically, if you go to a restaurant, it's the same. It's broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots. And it's like, well, what happened with the aubergines, the
Mm,
celery, the leeks, you could go on and on and on.
yeah.
And I think people just don't realize the scope that's there with vegetables and beans, like
Yeah.
what you can do and the type of dishes that you can make. And it's like,
Mm.
I've always believed that food should be orgasmic, or at least that it can be orgasmic. And that when it's made with love, God, there's nothing better than sitting down with a good plate of food. And the effect that it can have you, because you can feel the life going into your soul, into your genes, into your very being and,
Mm.
and feel the life giving there. That's the power of food,
Mm.
and it's too many people that are busy and having a sandwich and think that's lunch,
Yeah.
eating dead food.
Like it actually was something that I got into. Like I got into shamanism. I wouldn't say Celtic medicine was, see, I grew up in Ireland. I went to an Irish school, so it was present. We were making St. Bridget crosses when I was a child. We were doing all those things. So like it was just present, yourself, like it's just in your life and it's just around you. So you don't really think about it. And as a teenager, I got into the more shamanic world. Like that was new. Never heard that
Mm,
word before, so it became more introduced to me. And also food, because my sister got really into sprouting, raw food, juicing, healing any illness, like wrote 2 books on it and all this. And I got really in tune with that because I also was pregnant as a young person and was like, okay, I can't drink, I can't smoke, and I want to eat good because I want to
yeah.
give. So like I had that in me since a young person. I'm like, it's tough changing the habits of food. And it was a really big spiritual movement for me, the food. So
Mm,
it's why I'm so passionate about it, why I help people with those areas, or, I'm a herbalist, went and trained as a herbalist, like because I knew that you could do all your spiritual practices, but if you're eating bad or you don't have those other medicines, it's
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it's a
It
whole
it
thing.
doesn't. Yeah. And that's it. And it's good. I'm glad you mentioned herbalism too.
Mm,
Um, we're surrounded by food. I'm just looking out into the garden here now, and there's what people call weeds that are actually all very beneficial for us, And it's if we look around, I remember being in Jamaica, and there's people out begging on the street because we're so used to tourists getting off cruise ships and giving them money.
mm,
And you look around, you say, there's food everywhere. And it's like, what are they all begging for? I mean, they're surrounded by food. And likewise here too now, I look into the garden and it's like there's a ton of food there, just um, but people have lost the that knowledge, um, and maybe they're so used to where do you buy food? You get food in the shop.
mm,
That they're been conditioned so much that that's where you go for your food. And it's great to see the old wisdom coming back and people going out foraging and realizing that food is just there.
mm.
Um, and it's so important.
It's such a big one because I actually was on a podcast only a few days ago. It was art related, but somehow, oh yeah, they asked me a really interesting question that actually brought me to what would I like? I won't go into the exact question to give it away, but like basically, it was like what would I like to see in Ireland through the kind of maybe political aspect of how things could change or how could we support people? And I was like, people don't know what trees are anymore. They
Yeah,
know there's a tree, but
yeah,
they don't know what kind of tree or why we have a tree. And like that's happening in our culture, in our Irish community. Like it's happened, it's like, in places like America, that's like long gone. People don't even know what trees are anymore, because they're so removed. It's true. Like they don't realize this is proven. They don't realize like your carrots actually are meant to come from the ground. So this is happening here and people don't realize it because it's happening and it's because it's being removed. Again, it's just like, what are we allowing being removed from our spaces? And there's been amazing things like people doing, community gardens and herbal spaces because like it's free medicine and I hear it all the time, I can't afford. And like I have to remind myself sometimes of that because you get stuck into the societal, you have to buy, consume, consume.
yeah,
And it's just like, wait a minute, I have everything I need. Like
yeah,
in reality, you don't need a lot of space to grow. You don't like So of course, you need maybe your health to be able to walk and receive. Like that is definitely, it's not accessible to everyone. So there's a huge passion for me that just like the medicine is there. I'm looking at a willow tree and I'm like, it literally helps with pain and all the pain people have. They could just be drinking willow, right? Like simple.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is it, and it's you mentioned the Irish Oscailga. Did you go to an Irish school?
No.
Because that's one thing about the Irish language, and and maybe this is where the disconnect started. Because the Irish language is such a beautiful old language, but it includes nature. So it's not just talking to the individual, but it includes nature, it includes spirit, and it's all encompassing that we're not just talking about to a person, but it's about life and it's about the
Mm.
bigger things in life that people have sort of lost track of. And it's like the same as you're saying with vibration. The We're vibrating all of the time. We're all this energy, so we're not just there's words coming out of my mouth. There's also vibration coming from my heart going to you and from my third eye to you. And people can pick up on that and they either like the energy that's coming to them or they don't like it. They know that's a whole lot of bullshit that they're talking about, because you can feel the language, you can feel the truth of the words that people speak.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, The
So yeah, like this is a really interesting thing. So over the years, like Oscuelga was very, I actually called one of my horses, when you register them on their passport, which they legally have to have. I called her Oscuelga, and that was like 15 years ago or something. And I wasn't really around people at the time. That were really into Irish as much, It was kind of like, it's really like kicked up in the last few
Yeah.
years. But in the last 10 years, then I would have been around more people that would be, the cúpla focal and I got really good to have like micro conversations. And if people are speaking around me, I can kind of get the thing. And I really realized over the years that like a non-Irish speaker or never spoke Irish in their life, like if they see Irish, they do not understand what one word is.
Hmm.
Whereas like I can look at a piece of paper and go, okay, again, I get the gist that that don't get every word, maybe, or the phrase. And so I was kind of progressing, it was all good. And then it was really, really interesting. So kind of going back to what we were talking about before we actually jumped on here about the resonance of how something comes to you rather than going like how we learn things, or that's not exactly what we're saying, but what's coming through for me is that what happened was I noticed in the last year or so I was doing my end of my degree because I went back to college to do my visual arts degree. And I was doing it all on patriarchy, feminism, witches, Celtic medicine, Celtic mythology, and just like really like digging. So it's like, as you do, dig through everything you're finding. And what's really funny is I really wanted to do it around the Irish language and bring the Irish language in. And it was really like something like the energy was so like not allowing it. And I remember I'm not really good at actually quoting even my own work, but like I remember I have the fire in there and I have like Tin Everett in the description of the work because the fire is very much part of that film work, the last piece that I did. And so I did like put the words in there, but I remember the whole way through there was this like energy. And that year or two, I realized I lost a lot of my Irish capabilities, which was so freaking weird for me because I was like, how would you just lose something that like is just in there already, And I was around a group of people and a lot of people that I knew at this camp, and they were all like, and they're Irish. And I was like I felt like this, like I removed of the space and this like, oh my God, like this kind like a traumatic effect that, we hear people talking about, which I didn't have for many, many years. Like, I was like a not ha whereas in school I was dyslexic, so languages were really hard, and obviously all our Irish teachers were terrible, God love them. So we all had a very bad experience learning Irish. And then like I was like having this traumatic experience and I was like, I can't speak anything. Like the stuff that I would not like very simple stuff like spoon or milk. I was like, what is wrong? Like I always had those
Hmm.
words. And it was like something energetically was like cutting me off and shutting me down. So that was really interesting. And I've been kind of, coming back to myself through this journey. And noticing how my Irish is slowly returning. And it's not me going, I'm going to learn my Irish. It's just like it's slowly like kind of trying to come out of me again. It's
Yeah.
still not there. I still feel like when you're like, did you go to Irish school? It's like my body went, oh my God, are you going to ask me to talk Irish? Because like I'm freaking out. Like this is so weird. Whereas before someone would have asked me something and I would have been like, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
So and that's because like I went away and spent a whole like 2 years basically annihilating. I don't know if you're Catholic at all, but like annihilating the whole church and the invasion that we had, like, and that was my deep embrace. So like what I was experiencing the real torture that as a woman living in Ireland or through my ancestral, which, weren't always Irish. Like, we always, most of us journeyed, very, very little of us are coming from, this land. Um, so yeah, all very fascinating. Yeah.
It really is, and it's. I like what you said there now about because I've noticed that as well, and especially with language, but more than language. I think when you're an artist and when you're a little bit dyslexic, uh, by being dyslexic, you open yourself up to a whole lot of things that people might not be aware of, and you just see things on a different level in a different way. But I think when you're an artist, when you open up to create the creative part of your, that opens up the doorway for everything,
Mm,
for sound, for visualizing, for painting, for poetry, for writing books, for source just flows through you.
mm,
And it's about getting yourself out of the way and just letting life happen. And it's I think if you weren't dyslexic, not just you, but people in themselves, they probably wouldn't experience that. If you look at a lot of the people who have created stuff, nearly all of them have been dyslexic. A lot of
yeah.
the great people all through the world have been dyslexic. But it's interesting with, when you were saying about the Irish people that were not of the land. For me, I've always said we're gypsies because there's everything in us. But you can trace Irish people or Celtic people, our genes back to Baghdad and back up to the Hindu Kush and as far north. We're everywhere.
Mm,
Um, and we're everywhere as a race too, because people have always been. When I was growing up, the population of Ireland was 3.2 million. And for 40 years, that's what it was, 3.2 million.
mm,
And that's to say there wasn't people being born. Every year there was 50 odd thousand people moving, traveling around. And a lot of it was not because they had to, but because they wanted that there's something inside them that
mm,
draws them to other lands and to go out and explore and to feel things.
mm,
Uh, it's great nowadays that we can do that in our head. Now we always could, but I think that there's such an awakening, and especially over the last 10 years, all of the things that you've said, especially over the last 10 years, has increased, has magnified and has really drawn on, whether you're talking about the Marys, about spirituality, about food awareness, about land, about community, about waking up to what's inside of us and to who we are, and to allow this magnificence that we are to shine. Uh, and it's brilliant. And it's great I could sit here listening to you all day talking.
thanks. I like what comes from that place and to speak into your community, which I actually don't know, like, the more polarity of male-bodied or female-bodied, but like as we are actually touching this as well before we had a chat, like that self-mastery or, self-mastery is just about like knowing yourself, trusting
Mm,
yourself, like, for the woman body, or in most cases, most people are born with a womb. Some are not born with a womb. So I can't say everyone that has been born with a womb. And then men have an energetic womb, which most men don't know about.
mm,
But they are connected with wombs. They came from a womb. So they understand it to a degree, right? Not in the lived human experience, but in the degree. And like, intuition, that's like the whole, the heart, like the heart coherence thing is such a real proven thing now that, as you said, like we sync up with other heart vibrations. Our gut knowing is like comes back to the food. If you're not like, the energy, what you're consuming, what we're coming in, like this is simple stuff now. We know this. We all have access to this information, but are we actually being hardcore. And like
yeah,
me and my partner talk about this. We're like, we have a huge amount of experience, both of us, huge amount of experience in a lot of different areas, and have lived experience in our practice, in our spirituality, our day-to-day life, in our dream world, everything. And very conscious about like where we spend our time, how we spend our time, like everything. And notice when we're spending it on social media, like, you know what I mean? Like, just like, oh, look at us doing the bad
yeah,
thing. Okay. Like, just, but noticing, like, and we're being asked as a collective of people because I really feel that with you as well. It's like we are in this new evolution. I fully
mm,
believe it's a new evolution, and this is calling for complete and utter true self experience, which means that like calling out when something is wrong, leaving
yeah,
a community when something doesn't feel right. Like, because if one person doesn't leave or one person stays, it's taking balances out and it's creating an unhealthy system.
yeah,
This is the system we're in. We're just in this system, whatever this system is, and it must be fine because it's an ecosystem or, somehow it's working, whatever way, it'll naturally do something. But like as a spiritual calling, this is going back to like, when we're talking about the Celtic medicine, it's like, for me, it's like the land is the Celtic medicine. It's,
yeah,
because the land holds all the knowledge. So like this
yeah,
ancient knowledge, this beyond self, beyond the matcha, beyond, what I consume today, like the really beyond, if we listen to that and we consume that, even the word consume doesn't feel right, but we allow it like somehow penetrate us, like that's that medicine that actually comes through. And that's where we need to look at what we consume, because if you consume, there's no space in our being, in our soul, in our body, whatever it is, like we just can't take in those spaces. And I suppose vibration is a bit like that. It's like it's if anyone's ever done meditation, and you had a meditation and you just feel the energy, the silence, you know, nothing's happening, but you're now feeling amazing. How does that
mm,
happen? In reality, like, like we just like boom, boom, like feeling connected. Um, I went off on a rant of energy there because it's like it's really passion of like how if each of us have that, then I just feel like that's the pillar of energy that we can shine, and it just like attracts others and just moves things
yeah,
around. Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, this is the thing is that when somebody's talking, and this is what's powerful about a group of people talking, or when one person talks, and especially if everybody is connected and stays connected to the person that's talking,
Mm.
that will strike off in some part of them. This will come out. And then now all of a sudden we've got everybody's banging off each other, and you have all of this wonderful creative magic that's coming out of them. And yeah, I suppose people have to experience it to know what it is. But when that happens, you realize that we're more than just this bag of bones that's walking around here. We're so much more. And that when we can tune in and when we can tune in with the right people, God, everything is possible. And where we can kind of get a glimpse of what life could be like. And if we ask ourselves those questions, what type of life do I want to live? What type of person do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? We can ask ourselves those questions and be real honest.
Mm.
Now we're opening up to, okay, I need to start creating this. Because I think people don't ask themselves the right questions at all. They just go along with the way they've been taught and the way they've been programmed. And it's like, yeah, yeah, I get up and I do this and that, that,
Mm.
without knowing why. And that was, I think you mentioned religion, and I think that's the biggest failure of religion is that it kept everybody enslaved in a system that kept you down rather than empowered people.
Mm.
For spirit is all about empowerment, about growth. Spirit doesn't want to stay stable. It's all about growth and about generating more and about creating. And this is the energy that we need to get in touch with. You mentioned the land too. That's why I'm in West Cork. Uh, my idea was to bring people down here, like in workshops and stuff, and not to do anything, just to bring them to the space. I
Mm.
say, okay, just sit down there now for half an hour, and the land does it for you. You just have to be here and open up to it. Just breathe and breathe into the earth, and that's it. And once you can have that connection, it's like, wow, you can start listening to Mother Earth and listen to what's going on, and you start hearing things. I mean, we don't have fairies and pixies and all that. I mean, they're just not picked out of nowhere. If you take time, you can feel it, you can see different energy sources that surround us, and you can get in touch with it. And life is magic. We're so blessed to live in a magical country, um, and to meet magical people.
Yeah, completely. Like, you know, it, like this is, these are the conversations that are just naturally moving through people I meet lately, which I'm blessed. It means, I'm surrounded by people that want to have it's just, it's an essence that's moving through people, and there's kind of more of a comfortability around it. And it's not, yeah, it's just beautiful. And totally, it's like the conversation. There's one thing about Ireland and religion that really has to be said, is that what happened was that religion, put something on us. We have that
Mm,
saying in Ireland, a sadness is on us. It put something on us. It put a lot of things on us. Um, and someone said something recently to me, um, and it just really hit home. It's like the things but sometimes it just needs to be heard in a different way. And
mm,
they were like, we had to pick Catholic or Protestant. We had to pick. There wasn't a choice. You picked the better of the two, and you picked one for the other because that's how
mm,
it was. This is someone that's still alive and not that old. Like, come on, like this was recent stuff, and people are
mm,
just not there is people like we're talking about it, I'm talking about it. There is people really recognizing that, but why we have a disconnect is because what happens in so for me, like I'm really deeply passionate about not just Irish problems, the world problems, and indigenous people and land
mm,
ownership and yeah, like look, this is a whole political conversation that we're not going to get into, but what for me is really, really true to the heart is like when we have our own space and our own culture. And yeah, like as you said, the gypsy people would move, we just move and
mm.
we work through, and it's trading, and it's like I actually talk about that with my partner a lot, because where he lives, it was is it the Silk Road, was it would have went through
Yeah.
Poland. And so like, because I'm like talking about him, but like, because he has this look, I'm like, you just look like all these different countries. And then he's like, yeah, because there was all these different countries coming through our lands, so like it's not a bad thing that we're moving around together, but there's a symbiotic, we
Mm,
need this, we exchange, we trade, whatever. And then it's like when we go back to the control thing, which is patriarchy, and we have to know this, it is patriarchy. And the church brought the patriarchy most definitely to Ireland. And what we need to remove it, because I'm like, oh God, this is like a fire in my belly talking about all this. So, like, what happens is when we get really hurt as people, right, as a collective of people, we go, we need to survive. So we need to act. We need to mask. We need to, put all that stuff away. We can't be
mm,
going around going, oh, life is terrible, because we will not thrive or someone won't hire us. Like they're simple actual practicalities. So then we went into this whole like, booming Irish economy. And that's why we moved into this, like, the cars, the work, and like the over moving, and we're so disconnected, moved into the American way. And what people have realized is that we still haven't looked as a collective of people, like as in the mass of people, our inner true trauma of actually what has happened to our people. And that is something that's actually, I feel, is going to be another 100 years before it's going to shift. And all the people that have been displaced or in refugee situations, whatever it is around the world now, are
hmm
going to do the same thing that we did. They're going to go, I just need to get on and forget my trauma.
Yeah.
So it's happening all over the world continuously. So it becomes very hard to heal that as a collective of humanity. And on Earth, people, we just want to be very peaceful. Humans are actually peaceful by nature. We're like horses are very peaceful by nature. We have hierarchy and natural systems, but
Mm.
like, you know,
You know, the beauty of what you're saying there too, and it's something that I've always said, and especially when you're away for any length of time and you come back, you can feel that there's this unique energy here in Ireland. And when I moved back, it was one of poverty and one of
mm,
just get along to get along. There was no what's the word? There was no expansion, there was no growth.
mm,
Now that has changed a lot over the last few years. But with the power of monkey, the power of 100,
I'm not sure.
we're talking about changing things. It's like
Mm,
when 100 people focus on alleviating something or changing something, that as long as the 100 are doing it, it'll all of a sudden it will quadruple and it will go out there and it reach thousands. And I think it's the same with pain. Pain
mm,
that's in the land, pain that's in people, pain that's in the culture, is that I believe that there's enough people out there who are working on themselves to clear that pain and to heal that pain. And that has an effect on everybody else around it and allows other people then to clear it as well.
mm,
So regardless, because like I said, there's millions of people out there who are unaware of the pain that they're carrying and that they have. But I think also that there's enough people that's working on it that are aware and that are working on it. And I think this is people say, Asha, what can I do? I'm only one. But it's the power of one. We're all connected. We're all part of nature. And when we can get out of our head and just get into our body, get into the land with that energy, with that thought processes that I'm healing the land, I'm healing the world, that has a profound effect. And that will ripple out and people will feel that and they will resonate with the energy and they will do the same.
mm.
So that's my belief anyway. Yeah, I
It's
think it
totally brings us back around to community because
yeah.
community, when you see someone else, like you see them for who they are, what they
Mm,
bring to medicine, accept them, like with or without judgments, like, whatever that is a healing experience. And what we do then is it's the same with nature. When nature's like crying out for some attention and it's being ignored, then if it's given the attention, you're giving it, honoring it, putting down gifts, you know, yeah, I was touched by a story that I heard earlier on today about a river that takes a life every 7 years down in
mm,
West Cork, and it's been happening. And I said, maybe they need to start giving it something. Maybe it won't
mm,
need to take something so great if there's something there. This is when we go into the curses and stuff. Like the stories are real because the stories are, there's
yeah,
something to be looked at. So it's going back to how can we give back to community? How can we give to each other? How can
yeah.
we, which removes patriarchy, because patriarchy is all about like moving on top, the hatriarchy I was going to call it, So yeah, there's so much there. There's so much there. And yeah, it is totally true that the essence of one person doing the healing changes everything. 100%.
Mm. This is such a wonderful conversation, and we could talk all day. But in view of the viewers, we will stop there, and I'm going to stop the recording. You have been listening to Matcha, beautiful Matcha, and myself, Declan Kavanagh, righting the wrongs within the world. We wish you a good day. We give you blessings, and may your light shine.